Hello and welcome to Wide Open Reviews. Today we're going to be taking a look at slow motion on a budget. There are two different ways to achieve the slow motion effect. The first way is you can buy a camera like this Casio Xilum EX FH100, and this camera shoots 120 frames per second, 240 frames per second, 420 frames per second, and 1000 frames per second. Those are some pretty impressive numbers, but wait until you see the video quality. It's not that great.
Another way of doing slow motion on a budget is shooting 60 frames per second like most consumer cameras do, including this T2i, and then later slowing it down in post on your computer so you actually don't have to buy a new camera. You can use what you already have in some existing software. But before we get into that, we're going to go take a look at a few clips of Makena juggling and try and slow them down.
Okay, right here we have the Casio setup and the T2i set up at 60 frames per second, and now I'm gonna go juggle.
Alright, so now that we've finished shooting, we're going to go ahead and take the card out of the T2i and go into the editing room. Alright, so now that we have the footage on our computer, the first thing we're going to need to do is put it into After Effects. So you just import it into After Effects and create a new composition with your footage. Then you're going to want to edit down your footage to the part that you want to be in slow motion. But then once you have that, you select that layer, you go to Layer, Frame Blending, and make sure Pixel Motion is selected. This is key. This is what makes this effect work. You then go to the layer settings, go to Time, and do Time Stretch. And there's going to be a percentage for your stretch factor. Now, it's a little wonky in After Effects. If you're used to Final Cut, you have 100% and you enter 50% as the time remapping, which makes the clip twice as long because it's going at half the rate, 50%. But in After Effects, if you wanted 50%, you'd actually have to put in 200%, so that's just what we're going to use for this example. Once you click OK, the effect is not done yet. There's a very key component that sometimes I always trip up on because I forget to turn it on, but there's a little icon that looks like 3 film strips that says Enable Frame Blending down near the timeline, so you just click that, and then it's going to take a long time for your footage to render, so you might as well go out to eat or something. Alright, let's take a look. One thing that really sells this effect if you're doing it artificially is changing your shutter speed so it's higher than usual. If you're on a DSLR filming around 30 frames per second, you're normally at 60 for your shutter speed. But you just turn the knob and you can crank it up, at least get to around 400, but this helps reduce motion blur, which really throws the computer off, and it'll overall help sell the effect in slow motion. So, yeah.
As you can see, the Casio handles the complicated background just fine, but the quality just isn't very good. Which slow motion is best, the artificial or the real slow motion?
Well, I think it really just depends on the project. The Casio slow motion is more versatile and it's dead simple to create, but the quality is not up there. If you're making something that's HD, this just isn't going to match. However, the artificial slow motion is very limited and you basically have to be on a solid background, which isn't very interesting for movies, so I think it's just kind of
I guess if you want to drop $150,000, you can buy the Phantom HD Gold and get some really high quality slow motion effects as seen in Sherlock Holmes, A Game of Shadows.
Well, that's it for this episode of Wide Open Reviews. If you have any questions or comments about the cameras or techniques in the show, leave them in the comment section below. You can check us out on our Facebook here. or our Twitter here. And of course, always on our website, wideopenreviews.com. And we'll see you next week.